Kia ora everyone, and welcome to my Civilization 6 Buyer's Guide. We're going to break down this mess and try and discover what DLC to buy, where to buy it from, and at what price point. I'll have time cards in the description below so you can bounce to different sections of the video if that's your thing, and please do consider leaving a like rating to support me and the channel. Without any further ado, let's jump into my analysis of the different DLC options, and then my recommendations for which ones you should get. So let's talk the different versions of the game and the different DLC elements and expansion packs that comprise the Civ 6 experience. Okay, so basically there are 4 different elements. Element number 1 is the base game. You can see it here. Civilization 6. What does it include? Sid Meier's Civilization 6, okay? You can find this for free and on special all the time, as you can see. And we'll talk a little bit more about pricing and recommendations later, but that is the base game. Next up, you have the individual DLC packs and pieces. I would point your direction, perhaps probably the best place to see it is in a list form anyway, is probably here on Steam. So what do I mean by these individual packs? I mean things like this. You can see the Khmer pack, the Persia-Macedon pack, Vietnam, Byzantium, so on and so forth. You can see there are lots of these different packs. Some of them released individually quite early in the game. For example, the Viking Scenario Pack. This pack only available in certain editions early on. And then we went through and saw some more packs much more recently, as recent as, in fact, this year, 2021, at the time of recording. Next up, you have the Platinum Edition. Now, you can see here on 2K's website, they're not promoting the Platinum Edition anymore, and there's a good reason, and we'll cover that in a minute. What does the Platinum Edition cover? Well, the Platinum Edition covers the 2 significant expansion packs for the game. That is Gathering Storm and Rise and Fall. This is Gathering Storm here. It was a significant DLC pack. It came out in 2019. And before that, we had Rise and Fall. Again, a significant DLC package that came out in 2018. These differ from those smaller packs because they don't just provide you with civilizations, but actually they provide you with much, much more. Okay, so what did Rise and Fall introduce? Rise and Fall introduced Great Ages. It introduced the loyalty mechanic, which allows civilizations to effectively flip themselves, gain independence, so on and so forth. Very fascinating. Governors, lots of buffs to alliances. You can see loads of other things as well. Emergencies, 9 new leaders, 8 new civs. And some improved global content. That's Rise and Fall. The other main DLC package that is included within the Platinum Edition is Gathering Storm. Like Rise and Fall, you can buy this DLC pack by itself or as part of the Platinum Edition. What does Gathering Storm include? Gathering Storm, I think, is the better one, and I'll argue more about that in the second half of this video. But what you need to know is basically Gathering Storm introduced a whole load of new units and wonders and districts. Look at that, 5 new districts, 18 new units, 15 new improvements, 9 new buildings. Let alone the fact that it introduced 9 new leaders and another 8 new civilizations, and lots of great gameplay mechanics as well. Environmental impacts and environmental effects like climate change and floods add a real dynamicness to the game. Likewise, it introduced power, it introduced engineering, it introduced the World Congress. Loads and loads of stuff. Now, the one thing I will add before I move on from Gathering Storm and Rise and Fall, the 2 packages that were included as part of the Platinum Edition, I should just mention that these packs, as I've said, can be bought individually by themselves, and a lot of the mechanics that they introduce, let's say power and consumable resources, or potentially improved gameplay systems, some of this stuff was issued for free to the base game. So to get access to some of these features, you don't necessarily have to buy the DLC, but by buying these DLC packs like Gathering Storm or the Platinum Edition that it's included in, you ensure that you get everything and this new content, right? In particular, I'm talking about the new leaders and civs, which will add, of course, a huge amount of replayability to the game. The final and most recent DLC package that was introduced separately is the New Frontier Pass, which is sometimes now being labeled the New Frontier Pack, I notice. So the New Frontier Pass released over 2020 and 2021, and it basically included some of those DLC packs that we talked about at the start in one complete set, sort of a season pass. So you can see here it included 6 different individual packages that formed the New Frontier Pass, okay? So it is DLC, so you do require the base game to play it, but it also introduced a lot more. There's a lot more value to the New Frontier Pass than simply a glorified packaging of some of these sort of scenario packs like we may have seen in the early days. If you have a look here on Steam, you can see that initially some of these individual packs came out. They released as individual items. Then Rise and Fall and Gathering Storm came out, the big wombo jumbo DLC packages. The New Frontier Pass, which we're about to cover now, includes all of these packs above it within it, but not some of those original ones. Okay, so the New Frontier Pass here includes all of these packs, some really fun, fascinating civs to play, but moreover, also introduced a whole load of other stuff. Have a look at some of these write-ups here, right? The Portugal pack introduced the zombie defense game mode, and new map types, and new wonders. If we take a look at the Babylon pack, it introduced another new game mode. All of them basically introduced new game modes, which add a lot more playability than some of these early packages, which really just had civilizations. And so I can understand pushback from the community when the developers are releasing these first, but now that they've released these newer ones as part of the New Frontier Pass or the New Frontier Pack, I think actually this is a reasonable buy. At full price? Probably not, but look at all this content and consider all of the additional game modes that it adds in, and I think that the New Frontier Pass or the New Frontier Pack is definitely worth considering. And that brings us into the very final version of Civilization 6 that you can buy. It is the ultimate version. Take a look at this on 2K's website. You can see it released in June 2021, so it is hot off the press. It's the Sid Meier's Civilization 4 Anthology, and it includes everything from the early scenario packs to Gathering Storm to Rise and Fall to the New Frontier Pass or the New Frontier Pack and the base game. This is easily the definitive and final version of Civilization 6, okay? So all of you who have bought some so far, much like me, I'm sorry, we're out of luck, but any new people, this is probably the one you're going to turn your attention to, which actually brings me nicely into the second part of this video. Time for my recommendation. Now, let's talk recommend. So, I think that obviously, firstly, you're going to need the base game, right? So that's a pretty easy recommendation. But actually, there's some more to say about that. So, initially when Civ 6 came out, the base game was liked by a lot of people, but also disliked by a lot of people, right? Including myself, to be fair. It was quite a marked shift from Civ 5, particularly in terms of graphics, but also loads of different sort of gameplay mechanics that changed it in one way or another. What I'm trying to say here is that the Civ 6 of 2021 and onwards, now that the full version is out, and lots of free content was added to the game as well. It's not just DLC. Lots of free content and balance changes and new units and so on and so forth has been added. And it's a damn good game now. It really is. And I think any fan of the game will appreciate it. In terms of pricing for the base game, really, you shouldn't be buying it for anything less than a 75% off discount. It's so easy to find it for 75% off, whether it's the Humble Bundle store or Steam or Epic Games. I mean, you name it. It's out there at some point in time, at any point in time, for 75% off. In terms of the individual DLC packs, I think that you probably shouldn't pick up any of them, particularly of those earlier ones. I'm thinking the Viking Scenarios pack, the Australia pack. For what they are, they're overpriced, and they don't tend to go on great discounts by themselves. The best way to buy these packages is within bundles, okay? So I would recommend you do not buy any of the packs as standalone packs, regardless of whether they released as part of the New Frontier Pass or whether they released individually way back when, before all of the rest of the DLC. I'd recommend you don't buy them by themselves. Next up, we have the Platinum Edition, which in many ways has actually been superseded or even removed from certain stores now that the full experience, the Anthology, has come out, which I'll get to in a minute. But I do want to cover some of the contents that were within the Platinum Edition. That is the Rise and Fall DLC package and the Gathering Storm DLC package. These were full and complete packages, unlike those smaller sort of $7 to $10 packs that we talked about before. Gathering Storm and Rise and Fall not only added new civilizations, but also a whole load of other mechanics, which I've already discussed at the start of the video, so I won't delve into that any further, other than to say that as individual packs, they're actually pretty good. Gathering Storm in particular actually is the one to go for. Rise and Fall, most of the content in Rise and Fall was either made freely available in terms of actual like overall structural mechanics, or it was sort of superseded by the stuff that came with Gathering Storm. The only exception is, of course, some of the unique civilizations and leaders you won't get if you just get, say, Gathering Storm and you don't get Rise and Fall. That being said, Gathering Storm by itself, again, much like the base game, I wouldn't recommend anybody purchases it for, let's say, really anything less than a 50% off discount. You're probably selling yourself short. If you can't quite stretch to a more definitive, complete edition like the Anthology, I think that Gathering Storm is actually a great pickup by itself. If you've got the base game and you're looking to invest in a little bit of DLC, but not go the full hog, either because you don't have the budget or because you don't play the game quite that much, I would recommend you pick up Gathering Storm. Been my recommendation for quite a while now, and it continues to be. Reason being, it adds a lot of content, as I've said, but also it's at that nice point now where it's sort of 2 to 3 years old, and you can get it for that wonderful 75% off. You know, bring it down around sort of $10 US, maybe $7.50. It's a great buy at that price point, and I can't recommend Gathering Storm enough. Whether you've got no DLC or whether you've got a few DLC packs, Gathering Storm is definitely a great buy at that 75% off price point. Moving on, finally, we have the Anthology. This is the ultimate edition, as I've said earlier in the video, in the first half of this video. It includes every piece of DLC imaginable. It is obviously going to be the definitive pick, and if price point is not a problem, if platform doesn't matter to you, then go for it. Now, just before I go into the actual specifics, I want to give a forewarning. At the time of recording, Epic Games allows you to buy an upgrade. You can get the Anthology Edition upgrade. Steam does not. It will sort of do some calculations within your library to find which DLCs you do and don't have, so it's not the end of the world, but just something to bear in mind. You do need to consider your platform here if you're going to consider buying the Anthology. That being said, let's talk about the actual Anthology itself and what price point it is a good buy at. If price isn't an issue, I can't really not recommend it. Right, I must recommend it. It's a fantastic buy. It debuted at a 66% off discount, bringing it down to around the $50 price point, and that is a wonderful buy, particularly because it includes the New Frontier Pass, which I haven't specifically reviewed in the second half of this video, but needless to say, it's a fantastic modern package. It included 6 different packs within it, right? So you had 6 different sort of scenario packs in one New Frontier Pass. It was released like a season pass. Now they're referring to it sometimes as the New Frontier Pack. All of the game modes within it are great. The only downside to it is because it's relatively new content, it can be hard to find on special by itself. However, if you can purchase it by itself at something like a 50 to 75% off discount, then I would thoroughly recommend it just as much as I recommend Gathering Storm. The addition of the new game modes that it provides, in particular, like Monopolies, Secret Societies, you can play as vampires, for goodness sake. It is really great. It's a really great package. The reason why I don't cover it specifically and why I jump straight to the Anthology is because, again, on some platforms, you can't buy the New Frontier Pass or the New Frontier Pack alone. You must sort of purchase the Anthology. This is most evident on 2K's website for obvious reasons, where you can either just buy the base game or the full Anthology and nothing in between. So do shop around a bit and have a look at the different platforms where you can buy it, because you might be able to get the New Frontier Pass alone. However, that brings us back nicely into the Anthology. It's the complete edition. You can get it for 66% off on special, as I say, for around $50 US. And at that price point, if you can stretch to it, it's the best buy. 100% without a doubt the best buy, particularly and mainly because it includes all of the New Frontier Pass content. And that concludes, speaking of conclusions, my ultimate Civilization 6 buyer's guide. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've discussed all of the different DLC elements of the game and my buyer's recommendations. To conclude, the base game at 75% off is absolutely the price point you want to pick it up at. If you can't get it for free, it is sometimes free on the Epic Games Store. Gathering Storm is the best DLC individual package for its price point. It provides the most value, additional civilizations to play, and new game features, and because of its age, it's at that perfect point where you can pick it up for $7 to $10, and it adds a lot of depth to the base game. The New Frontier package by itself is great too, but can be more difficult to find on special. And finally, my last recommendation, if you're an absolute baller, or if you're shopping at the right time, you can't go past the Civ 6 Anthology. It is the ultimate experience. It pulls everything into one place. And to be honest, this will be the edition of the game that in future is available for, 10 or 20 US dollars. This will be the version that becomes what Civ 5 is right now. And I can wholeheartedly say that at those wonderful discounts of 66 to 75% off, it's a really conclusive, well-rounded experience that not only Civ fans, but any fan of strategy, 4X gaming will be really into. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, rating, and consider subscribing and joining our small but growing community. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then. Take care, everybody.